Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Jackie Phillips, and I serve as the Senior Coordinator for Student Engagement in the Department of Engagement, Leadership, and Service. I have the honor of working with our registered student organizations, everything from the re-registration process or creating a new student organization to our SOAR awards and different recognition efforts, and our monthly programming for chief officers and leaders within our student organizations. So thank you for being here today to learn more about applying for SOAR awards. So throughout the next few minutes, I'll give you a brief overview of our SOAR awards, and then share some frequently asked questions that we receive, and then some general tips and examples from previous award winners. And then we'll also open it up for any questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to send those in the chat throughout this presentation, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, feel free to email us at soarawards@uga.edu. So what are SOAR awards? This is our 20th year of recognizing the great work that our student organizations do. And so SOAR stands for Student Organization Achievement and Recognition. And so this is our 20th year. You can check out on our website last year's winners and learn more about the different awesome programs and initiatives that they did. But every year we recognize the incredible student, advisor, and organization accomplishments of our student organizations. And so there are 15 different campus-wide award categories. Some of these are focused on new organizations or small organizations, different campus events. There's opportunities to recognize your advisors or specific student leaders within your organization, but you can apply for all 15 awards on the Involvement Network through one form. And so that application is just one application. You'll indicate what awards you're interested in applying for, and then you'll be taken to a separate page for each of the award categories. But the deadline to apply and submit the form through the Involvement Network is this upcoming Sunday on January 31st. However, since y'all are here today, I'll let you in on a little secret. We have decided to extend that deadline, so you do have a little bit more time into the first week of February. So stay tuned for an email with the official date of the extension. But if you haven't already started working on them, or you just like that extra time, you all are the first to know that we will be extending that. So you now have a little more time as you consider what awards you want to apply for. So taking a look at the application, depending on what award you're applying for, you might be asked for a few of these different things, but these are the common application materials that you'll be asked for. And so the first is an application statement. This can be up to 3 pages in a PDF format, specifically addressing the award criteria. And so in just a minute, I'll give you an example of one of the awards and some of the different criteria that you'll want to answer throughout your application statement. But think of your application statement as really your opportunity to talk about your organization and then specifically address why you're applying for that specific award. You'll also be asked for 3 photos of your organization or program or of your members. And so we ask that you copy and paste all 3 of those photos into a Word document, because we'll then use those photos to recognize the great work that your organization's doing. So they may show up on social media, and we'll also use them throughout the SOAR Awards program and to recognize the winners when we do announce them. Additionally, you have the option of providing a letter of support. And so this is a 1-page document, and it can be from whoever you want. So it can be from members of your organization addressing the award that you're applying for. It can be your advisor or a staff or faculty member, but anyone that can speak to the great work that your organization is doing. And so feel free to ask whoever you'd like, but this is not required. It is optional, but it can provide you an additional way to talk about the award that you're applying for and how your organization would be a great fit for that award. Additionally, you can provide supporting documents. These can really be whatever it is that you want. At the end of this presentation, I'll show you some examples from last year's Organization of the Year, the Residence Hall Association. And so they had provided some different goals of theirs throughout the year. They had submitted some pictures of their website. So this can really be whatever you want it to be. It can be additional photos. It can be flyers from throughout the year, anything to support what you've shared in your application. This is your opportunity to provide more information and to really show why you deserve to win this award. And so these are the different components that are asked about within the application. But what I always recommend is consider writing a blanket application statement. So create that template and then adapt it for each award. So rather than submitting the same exact application statement for each award you're applying for, have your template. Some of the information would be the same, such as describing your organization, but then you want to get more specific based on the award within that application statement for each of the different awards you're applying for. So definitely cater it towards each specific award. And I would recommend not just submitting one for each of them that's the same, but rather, use some parts of it, but then adapt it, similar to what you do with a cover letter when you're applying for different jobs or internships. So some frequently asked questions that we get are these awards for the 2020-21 academic year, or are they for the 2020 calendar year? And so the answer is kind of both. It's from February 2020 to January 2021. So anything that's occurred since last February up until when you submit your application. And so that could cover more than one executive board of yours. It could cover events that maybe occurred last February, but think about anything that's occurred essentially since our last SOAR award. So anything since last February until the time that you submit your application. How many awards should you apply for? It's really completely up to your organization. If you all have the time and would like to apply for all of them, go for it. We'd love to see that. If you want to focus on just 2 or 3 that you feel that your organization would be best suited for, that is totally fine too. It's really up to your organization based on what it is that you're wanting to apply for. But there's no right answer. You can apply for as many as you'd like. And each of the awards are judged by different groups of people. So they'll never know if you applied for all of them. Each one will be judged based entirely on that application. How will we be celebrating the 2021 SOAR Awards? They'll be celebrated both online and in person. So we will have a reception on April 6th, but then we'll also be doing tons of celebrating and recognition on our social media and finding other fun ways to recognize the great work of our recipients. So stay tuned for finalized plans, but there will be some different opportunities to celebrate the work of your student organizations through SOAR Awards later this spring semester. And then are self-nominations allowed? Yes. So there's tons of different awards that are specific to individuals, like our Bulldog Vision Award or our Emerging Leader Award. And so for these, you are more than welcome to self-nominate. However, if you do self-nominate, it needs to be that your organization is supporting you and not just you filling it out on your own. So you can fill it out and nominate yourself. However, you do need to have the support of your organization. Someone just private messaged me saying that there's a typo on the timeline on the website. I'll be happy to take a look at that right after this presentation and double check. But the event should be between February 2020 and January 2021. And so if the dates are listed differently, that's probably just an accident that it didn't get updated from last year. But for any awards for the 2021 year, they should be from last February until this January. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. So some other general tips as you're applying for SOAR awards is double check the award criteria. You'll notice that the requirements vary based on the award. And so for some awards, you might need to include a resume. For example, the Outstanding Student Leader Award. For others, you don't. So take a look at what the criteria is and make sure that you're hitting it within your application statement so that you're answering the questions that are listed as the minimum requirements for that specific award. Additionally, scoring is based on the description and the minimum requirements. So you're going to want to make it clear to the judges which questions are you answering and that you're answering all of the questions that are outlined within each individual award description. So while doing that, give specific examples, maybe restate what the question is, maybe choose to do it in a bullet format, really however you want to do that. However, you want to make it clear that you're answering those questions because I'll show you in just a minute how we end up scoring each application. And so you want to make sure you're addressing each question because that's exactly what we're scoring it on. Feel free to be creative. You're more than welcome to just send in a Word doc. However, if your organization would like to get creative, you'll see in some of the examples how some of them use, the organization heading within the document. It's really up to your organization. We won't be judging based on how it looks, but feel free to get creative in what additional supporting documents that you're sharing as well. Make sure you're proofreading your application materials. And then you're also going to want to make sure that your organization's information on the involvement network is up to date, because for some of the awards, there are more than one recipients. And for those, it's based on the size of your organization. And so what we'll do when you apply is we're going to go on the involvement network and see how many members are listed on your roster to see which category you fall under, so that we're sending it off to get judged under the right category. So you're going to want to make sure that your involvement network profile is up to date, and that your roster shows your current membership, so that you're not saying you have 50 members, but we're going on the involvement network and finding that you only have 10 listed. And so that's important. Even if it's not asked in your application, you're still going to want to make sure that the information on the involvement network is correct, so that when we're reading your application and look on your involvement network profile, the information aligns and there's no discrepancies. And so an example in terms of our criteria, here's the example of most innovative program. And so this award is awarded to the student organization that positively impacted the UGA community through sponsoring an original project or program. Applicants should be able to describe their program or event's creativity and innovation. And so then we describe what the application material needs to include. So at a minimum, you should include the description of the need you identified and how your program or project addressed that need, a description of the communities or students who were involved and how they were impacted, and then also the program logistics and planning process. And so you'll see we've pulled directly from that description, and this is what the judges will be judging you on. So the impact on the campus community, impact on members within your organization, the intent and plan for implementation, and then also the innovation. And so you're going to want to be sure within your application statement that you hit all 4 of these, and that it's clear that that's what you're addressing. And so what I would encourage your organization to do is pull these bullet points and then make a checklist for yourself to make sure that you're answering each of them. Because one of the most common mistakes that we've found is just folks accidentally leaving one of them out. And so they might have answered all 3 of the other questions, and scored really highly from their answers, but then they completely forgot to talk about the program logistics and planning process, and then unfortunately aren't getting those points, and then that's weighing them down. And so just make sure that you're hitting all of these, but that it's also clear that that's what you're addressing within your responses. And so I'm now going to switch screens and share some examples from last year to kind of show you some of this in action and what these could look like. So if you wouldn't mind just giving me a thumbs up if you can see this PDF from the Georgia-Israel Public Affairs Committee. Perfect. Thanks, y'all. And so this was submitted for our Bulldog Vision Award. And so they had nominated an individual from within their organization. And you'll see here, it's just a PDF. This was their application statement, but that they used their organization header, and that it was submitted by the executive board of the organization. And so throughout this document, they described the recipient's involvement within the organization. So they provided some history of what they've done within the organization. And so that's really helpful, but then they dived even more into what had Brett done throughout that specific year. So thinking about the timeline of February 2020 to now January 2021. And so they continue to share the impact that Brett's made within the organization. And then they also dive more into why he would be a great recipient of this award, his vision for the organization, and how that came to fruition. And so you'll see here they gave specific examples. So over the past 5 months, Brett met with members of, and then continued on with specifically what Brett had done, and how that related back to being the recipient of a Bulldog Vision, or having a great vision for the organization and the UGA community. And so they gave specific numbers. So, you know, $7,000, over 15 donors. So not only share that qualitative experience, so what was the impact they made, but then also quantify it by giving numbers if you have them. You know, using quotes from other members describing the individual, or asking someone that had attended an event for a short experience that they had, and include that quote within your application. But finding ways to really describe why your organization or an individual specifically deserves that award. And so this was one example from last year. And I'm also happy if you all would like to email these out afterwards, or you can reach out to us for an example. Here's an example from our Organization of the Year. So the Residence Hall Association did win last year. And so this was their supplemental document. And so they provided the semesterly RHA guide that they had created with their goals, mission statement, and introduction of the board. And so this was something they created, not just specifically for their application, but they pulled from different documents that they already had that they had utilized throughout the year. And so if you have agendas from meetings, or if you have planning documents, these are all great things that can show specifically what your organization did. And so feel free to include those. You don't need to build everything from scratch. Pull from what you've used in order to make the different things that you've done, what were used in the process. So, you know, it shows who their exec board was. And then they also showed a screenshot from their website, because within their application, they talked about how they had updated their website. And so in order to show those changes, they included a description here within their supplemental documents to show all of the different resources they created. So they not only said, hey, we created these resources, but they provide proof of it through this document. And so they just took a screenshot and included that within their application. Here was their application statement. And so you'll see they broke it up based on the criteria. So they included the mission statement and talked about the purpose of their organization. They talked about efficiency. And then they also talked about collaboration. And so what was really helpful with this format is when judges were reading it, they were able to pinpoint, okay, these are the things they did throughout the year. And then they were able to pull the specific examples. And so this is one of the ways where it makes it easier to pull and be like, ah, yes, these are the things they focused on. And then they can dive further into each of the paragraphs. And so even just using simple headings can help kind of make your point within your application. And so that was their application statement. And as you can see, it was 3 pages. And once again, they provided a more broad overview because assume that the judge hasn't heard of your organization. So make sure that you're including a description, even if it's just a few sentences, but saying MedLife does this or RHA does this. So just give them a little context before diving into specifically why you deserve that award. And then the last example was from our program, one of our programs of the year. And so you see here, once again, the Hispanic Student Association provided a brief description of what the event is, and then they dove more into why it was different from previous years, and then the different aspects of that event. And so this was their application statement, and they ended it with reasons why the event was successful. And that wasn't just the number of attendees, but they had pulled in different examples throughout. And so this was also just a Word document. So once again, doesn't need to be, you know, a Canva made, you know, whole report. It can just be written out, but just make sure you're once again addressing the award criteria. Are there any questions about any of these examples or the application process or anything that you were hoping to learn more about by attending today's session?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I read that when you're, or if your award that you submit becomes one of the final ones, you have to come in for a presentation. Can you explain a bit more about?
Yes. So the only award that would have presentations is our Organization of the Year award. So after submitting your application, if you do choose to apply for Organization of the Year, our judges will narrow it down to some finalists, and then we will invite the finalists in for a presentation. This year, presentations will occur via Zoom, and they will be about 5 to 10 minutes. So your organization will have up to 10 minutes to talk about why you deserve Organization of the Year, to give an overview of some of the things that were in your application, and then the judges will have about 5 minutes to ask any questions that they have, but that's only for Organization of the Year and then for our finalists. And so if selected as a finalist, we'll send out more information, but for now, just focusing on specifically on your application, and then based on the applications, you'll get to present in whatever format that you want. That's a great question. Any other questions or things you'd like to know more about SOAR awards? We really hope that your organizations apply. As mentioned before, the deadline will be extended from the 31st into next week. We'll be sending out an email either tomorrow or Thursday with the new deadline. But we'd love to see applications from all of your organizations. And if you have any questions after today, you're always welcome to email us. And for SOAR awards, we have a specific email account. It's just soarawards@uga.edu. But as always, you can reach out to me directly or to els@uga.edu. But if you have any other questions, feel free to ask those now or send them in the chat.
Thank you, Jackie.
Of course.